Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sessions with Kat. It's another week. It's another week. I am, unfortunately, I have been battling another bout of dehydration. That's 2 years in a row. For those of you concerned about me, I greatly appreciate it, but I do want you guys to know that um, apparently my body's not adjusting well to the temperatures of summer here in South Carolina. So like my body's just not adjusting. And I got if you remember, I got dehydrated last year. And I'm always cold. I drink a gallon of water on the daily. However, that is not enough during the summer months here in South Carolina. And my body does not recognize that. So if it can get on the same page, that would be great. And so I became dehydrated again. So, I went through the whole motion of, drinking Pedialyte, right? Um, Gatorade, liquid hydration, um, things of that nature. And I'm back to just plain water now. So that's a plus because yesterday and a few days, I couldn't stomach just plain water. Now I can stomach it. So that means I'm doing better. That means I'm getting better. So thank, thank the God, and all the energy healing I've been doing on myself. So that was much needed. Especially, I didn't want to be dehydrated on my birthday. I want coffee on my birthday. So I'm just kind of glad that I, you know, was able to move myself through it. So here we are. I hope you guys have been staying hydrated. I hope you've been feeling well, resting, um, eating all of the above. I just hope everybody is doing wonderful. So, I got asked a few times at one of the events I did recently, like, "Hey, Kat," because at events most people don't call me Catrice because my business name is Sessions with Kat. But like they were like, "Hey, how do you learn how to read these different systems?" And I don't think I ever went over that with you guys. And I want to. So we're going to start with a new system that I don't know. Guess what? I don't know this system. But I'm just going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through the cards. Now, the cards are all mixed up, mainly because I was playing around with this system, testing it on myself. Now, if you follow along on my podcast, you know the whole rebranding, refocusing, rejuvenating. I am still in the refocusing phase of learning this new system. Um, the rebranding phase was learning a new system, much like the mahjong. If you've ever got a reading from me with those, then you know that was a whole journey. um, but um, this is a whole new system, and I've been in the research and development, trial and error phase uh, of this part. So I'm still in the refocusing part of this. So the cards are going to be mixed up. You could be mad, don't care. I'm not going through to put them in order because I'm just going to shuffle them and put them, shuffle them again. So I'm just going to leave them out of order. But I'm going to just kind of walk you through, generally speaking, how I learn a new system. Now, tarot and oracle, very natural for me. I don't have to use the book. I can read those intuitively. Um, Lenormand and playing cards. Playing cards came naturally. Lenormand is similar to playing cards, only it's more of a pictograph, and so you read the whole, all the cards essentially. Like you want all the cards are all 36, depending on your deck, 36 cards out. And you're kind of reading based off of that, and it's like how close the card is to this, and it's all different for everybody. Because I am an intuitive reader, it's a little bit easier to read those type of systems. Playing cards is just the minor cards in the tarot deck. So It's a little bit easier to read those if you know what you're doing. I will be holding a class on reading playing cards. If that is something you guys are interested in, let me know. But I will have a class on that. So, that's easy for me. Reading charms, easy. Reading bones, easy. Okay. Reading this system, I don't know why it's a little difficult. But then at the same time, like it's probably difficult because it's new, right? It's just as much like the mahjong deck that I can read from. It's a whole new system, and it's not something that I would take to events with me. The mahjong, that is because there's too many cards that get pulled, and it's more than a 15-20 minute reading. It's more like an hour, um, and it requires knowing what certain cards mean, because certain cards have a set meaning and you have to know those. So I'm going to walk you through how I learn a new system, just briefly, while walking through the cards as well. Okay, so this is the rainbow Kipper. Now, Kipper cards can look like Lenormand cards, but they're different. They are different. Okay. um because like Lenormand cards will have like a playing card symbol on them. They'll also have the number of the card on them. But Lenormand cards I find easier to read because my the way my gifts are set up, the way I think and whatnot, it's like a pictograph. I just pull it all together and it's like a mosaic of something awesome. This is slightly different. It's new for me, but it's something that I like to hone before I deliver it to the world and go, hey, by the way, I can read this, right? Um, I like to make sure that I can before I just push it out into the world. Some gifts just come naturally for some people, right? It's kind of like if someone handed me like a bracelet or something like that, I can read based off of that, right? If it's a bracelet, especially if someone who's passed or a loved one, I can usually get the energy from that and kind of tell you what energy is coming off of it, what I'm feeling, or if that person had anything to say or whatnot. Um, I believe that's psychometry. Um, that's the word. When you can read an object or a piece of clothing or something like that. Um, that is a natural gift for me, right? Um, Reading auras, natural, soul auras, and so you have your auric field on the outside, the part that radiates from you, and then you have your soul aura that kind of comes from your eyes, that I can see come from your eyes, or that I can see within you. I can see both of those. That's natural. Systems like this, not so much natural, right? And so I'm just kind of learning it. And I'm easing my way into it. I'm being patient with myself with it because I don't want to just give up because it's new, right? Or because it's change. We shouldn't do that. So let me I don't know fully how to explain this system, but I'm going to do my best, right? I'm going to show you the book and everything, because when I'm learning a new system, I am looking at the book. I'm not looking at the meanings of the cards. I'm looking at how to do, like, how can I explain it? Let me just open it up. So when I get in the book, yeah, they show you the cards, right? But I'm reading the general message of what the card. I'm not looking at the cards exactly. I'm looking at what like the colors of the cards mean, or let me see. So because you get to the blue cards and everything and what it means. I don't necessarily get to this part at looking at this um, unless I'm trumped, right? Because certain cards do have meaning. However, I am an intuitive reader. So sometimes I will check myself against the book if I'm picking up the right energy based on the question that was asked, or just based on the cards that came out. I will check myself. Now, that is me doing a reading for myself. not necessarily me doing a reading for someone else. I have not put this into play for other people. And I do try out the spreads. I do try out the spreads. And the reason being is I just like to see if it works for me, and if it's something I want to keep in my arsenal. Uh, Truth be told, I'm at the point right now where I'm only reading myself with this because I'm still getting the hang of it. Okay. So I do go through the book. I don't read about each card. I just literally go through the book and I look at, oh, so, what the main character means and whatnot, because there's main characters in here. I go through that. I like to see, you know, I look at the table of contents. I don't necessarily just go and touch each thing, right? So you have the main characters and whatnot. So in a way, it's similar to Lenormand. If you've ever read Lenormand cards, there are main cards. You have to have a main card. Like you choose the one that's main for you. Um, and in a way, you can do that with this deck, right? With this system. So it's kind of like that, but it's not like that. I don't know how to explain it. I'm still learning it. So like I can't explain it to you guys until I get a grasp on it, but I want to explain to you how I go about learning it and getting a grasp of it. So I do start with the book. So what do the green people mean? Okay, what do the red cards mean? That kind of thing. Like I said, I do not go into, oh, number 31 means short illness. I don't look at that. I don't look at that at all. I don't look at that. I only look at that if I'm second guessing what I'm picking up intuitively from the card. I hope that made sense. So, unlike like the Mahjong deck, that deck, I had to read about each card because you certain cards couldn't be placed next to each other in that deck. You would have to like reshuffle or redo the hand, and it's crazy because each system is different. Do I love it? Yes, absolutely. But I don't feel that I need to go through each card. Now, to each their own. You can go through each card if you want to. Um, that doesn't, you know, make you a bad person if you do. Some people they just have to read the book, frontwards and backwards, and that's okay. That is totally okay for you. Okay. Um, I just need general, right? Because of how I read. To me, and no offense to Toni and Steven who created this deck. No offense to either one of them. Beautiful people. This is their interpretation of that. Okay. I want my interpretation. Now, if my interpretation is in alignment with theirs, kudos to me. If it's not, still kudos to me because that's my intuitive, right? That's my prerogative there. It's also based on what I'm asking, what spirit wants to tell me, and anything like that. So I know I'm going to use this deck as it is intended, but I'm also going to use this deck according to how I read. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're starting a new system. Like for those of you who've never read tarot before, the card is what's in the book is the artist interpretation. What is yours, right? You need both. You need both sides in order to fully understand what that card is capable of conveying to you or to the person that you're reading. So please keep that in mind. Okay. So I do, you know, I like this box. FYI, I like a good box like that. This was $24.99. That's the box. Y'all saw the book. So there you go. What I typically do is, especially like in Lenormand, they'll give you 2 women, 2 men to choose from. And you get to choose which main character best represents you. And then me personally, like in Lenormand, you can choose which one best represents you and then put the rest in the deck or leave them out. Okay. Um, for me, this would depend on who I'm reading, what I'm reading about. Okay. If I'm trying to understand like a boss situation, say you're at a job and you're trying to understand whatever's going on between you and your boss or whatever, and say your boss is male, you're going to pick whichever one of these cards best suits that main character. It's not always you, right? It's not always going to be you. So you're going to choose that person. So what I do when I get a new divination system, I'm gonna like, especially this one, what I do is I sit with each of these cards. I sit with each of them, right? Now, no lie, no doubt, I'm always going to choose this one to represent me, okay? Mainly because this one feels outside of me. So this one's not going to ever be me, but this might be someone I'm reading, right? Say the person in front of me, they chose this as the main character for themselves, and that's fine, right? I'm going to use that for them. But for me, because my hair is typically in this style, I'm going to use this for me, right? So I sit with each card because I like to get a good vibe from it. I like to know what it feels like, what it's telling me. And I take notes on that. So I will get a new journal, right? And it doesn't matter what your journal look like. I mean, it can look something like this, or just like a regular journal or notebook or something like that. I take notes on what each card intuitively tells me about itself, right? So these are the main characters, right? And so I will write down what each card tells me about itself. And sometimes they'll tell me, like, oh, I give off amethyst energy, or I'll give off charlite energy, or something like that. It might tell me the crystal it's giving off. It might tell me the herb, the plant, or, what have you. It might even tell me the chakra um, that they generally sit with. And I will make note of that. And so I have something to reference for myself, right? What energy that it's giving off. If it decides to change its energy, it'll let me know and I'll add that to my notes. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind, right? So it's if you're a note taker, that would be great because that'll really help you with learning these cards. Then I go through and I take each card. Now, what I love is each of these cards has a keyword on it or phrase. Okay. Um, what I do is in I'm gonna try to show this as easy as I can. Let me just take this top card. These are the backs. I love the backs, by the way. What I do is I hurry up and cover that. So when I was reviewing this deck for myself and taking notes, I kept this part covered. I kept that part covered. I did not want that keyword to always drive what I picked up from the image. Sometimes it's the keyword that sticks out. Sometimes it's the image. And I myself have to recognize that. So when I'm taking my first initial notes, I immediately covered that. When I realized that there was a word down here, I kept my finger over them. And I would hold it in my hand and I would write my notes or what have you. Um, and then I would take my finger off and go, oh, that's virtually what I wrote down, and then I moved to the next one. Okay. This helped with me keeping my own um, understanding of what these cards were. Okay. If I was stumped, I would take my finger off and go, okay, that makes sense. And sometimes I would just go ahead and look at the book and see if, what I picked up from what was in the book. And if that still didn't work, I would pull the card out, set it aside, and come back to it later until it wanted to talk to me. Okay. You don't want a deck or a new divination system that won't speak to you, right? And sometimes the card doesn't want to speak until it feels you're ready. So just kind of keep that in mind. That is a thing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, y'all. That is a thing. So just kind of keep that in mind. So I cover up the keyword. I try my hardest not to look at it right away, because sometimes, whenever we see a word somewhere, we're going to immediately go to it. I want to see this first. I want to know what my intuition is telling me, right? And my first thought when I looked at this, I was like, oh, somebody's clearly overworked. And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, yeah. Because in my mind, like, they're stiff. There's a lot of stiffness. I picked up stiffness. And really, when I got this deck, I was overworked emotionally and mentally, and I was very stiff. So it made sense. Okay. And so I go through each card and do that. Right. So if you're thinking about this system, I would say, make sure you are prepared to be patient with learning it. Right. And for some of you, so for some of you who like to use the book, even when you're reading others, you can totally do that. There is no shame in your game. Me personally, I don't use it. I don't think anybody's less than if they do use it. It's just me personally. I do not use it. So when I first saw this card, I did not see that. Okay. When I first saw this card, I went, somebody's clearly needing to learn something. Somebody needs to learn a lesson, or they need to pay attention. Something needs to be done. I did not feel that whatsoever. Okay. So you will get that. You will definitely get that, right? Because you're intuitively reading based off what you need, especially when you're learning the system, you're reading yourself first. Okay. You're learning what you need, right? When I saw this, I didn't see great fortune. What I saw was, okay, someone's finally got to a point where they received everything they needed. That is a form of great fortune, right? Gloomy thoughts with the color yellow, I don't associate that, but it's all mental, right? Yellow is usually for thoughts, right? So you can go through each card and take your notes, right? And then once I've taken my notes on all the cards, right, what I've done with this deck is I've set these aside and I shuffle these 3 times. That's my number. You shuffle however many times you want to shuffle. My number is 3. Okay. Again, shuffle however many times you want to shuffle. I shuffle it, then I turn them over on the side, on the back side, and then I knock on it. Okay. And it's almost like I'm trying to, I'm opening up a door. And then what I do is, and I'm going to show you again, what I do is after I knock on it, I flip it back over, spread it out, and I put this over my heart chakra. Okay. I put the whole cards and I put it over my heart chakra. Okay. That's the heart chakra there. So I'm going to put it over my heart chakra. Okay. And I hold it there until I feel that connection with it become established and it's flowing and it feels good. That I just hold it there. It's usually only a few minutes. It don't take but a few minutes. If you're new to this, then it could take a little bit longer, but just stay with it. Just stay with it. And I get that energy flowing. Okay. Then once I do that, now I ain't gonna lie to y'all, that don't look like no damn infant, but you know, I would have just taken like child. I would have taken that. I took the main cards and I did the same thing. I knocked on them. So I just knocked on it and then I spread it and then put it over the heart chakra. Now, some of these cards do remind me of Lenormand, as they should. As they should. However, they are not the same. Here's why. You have a main character card, right? You would essentially add all the other ones back into the deck, right? In Lenormand, you don't have the separation of a rich gentleman from any of these cards. It's just you either, you're the male and you're adding you're the female and you're adding all of these in, and say one of these two come up, they're going to give you the vibe of whatever you need in that moment. In this particular system, there is a rich gentleman in it. So like there's still that energy in it, and it's like, oh, right. Um, Definitely different. Like the lady. So like keeping that in mind, that is not exactly like Lenormand. Okay. So once you take all your notes, once you put your energy into it and get it all shuffled, then you're going to take these cards and you're going to read yourself, and you're going to use, going back to the book here before I finish that, you're going to find one of the spreads in here, and whichever one works for you, right? You're going to find a spread, daily spread with you find one of the spread, and you'll follow the spread. Okay. You'll choose your main character and then whatever cards come out. Okay. You don't have to read the whole tableau of cards. You don't have to read all of the cards. That is the difference between this and Lenormand. Lenormand, you gotta like build. You gotta build. Now, sometimes you can get a quick answer out of Lenormand if you go and find the writer and see what message the writer is bringing. Right? You can take the first and the before and after card of that. With this one, you're not doing that. This is different, right? It's a easier system. Well, I shouldn't say easier system. It is a relatively simple system. However, it all depends on how your gift works and how you want to kind of move with it, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. So you would take, I'll show you an example here. You would take your cards, and let's say they're already shuffled because I don't feel like shuffling. I don't want you guys to be sitting here hearing me all this shuffling, right? I'm going to leave it that way, right? Let me move that up so you guys can see, right? I'm going to take it that way. And then I'm a person that will take the top card as my before and the bottom card as my after, right? And then read that. Hope that makes sense. If you were reading Lenormand, you would be building around this card. You were building around. You go all the way out until you've literally placed all 36 cards, right? With Lenormand, you're supposed to read all 36. Do I read all 36 at one point? No, absolutely not. Because that takes it takes up your whole table. So I couldn't even have like my little business card holder or tip jar or anything on the table, right? That's just a big ass fucking table. But also, that's longer than like a 20-minute read, like if I'm at a event. I'm not reading all those cards, right? So if someone wants a longer reading and they want me to use Lenormand, or they're okay with me using Lenormand, I need at least 45 minutes to read that. But that's how you read that. Now, what I've been doing is understanding what the spread is meant to do, what it's meant to convey. Because the direction and all of that. So like you really have to look at all of this when you're learning a new system, right? The coloring, the direction, the core meaning of the card or anything like that. You have to really look at that. So I do go in and I look at that, and I look at all these spreads, what it means to me, which direction is it facing, like in those particular cards, right? If you can see, I was not facing this, right? So to me, this already happened. Now I need to look forward to working through it. But it's like, okay, what am I like? How am I supposed to navigate that? And so when I read intuitively for myself, it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to be working and working and working and working and working, but you don't have to be so stiff. You don't have to be so uptight or anything like that to where it could feel like that. The goal is to get here, not here, right? So I will pull out two gold cards, and it's like, okay, the way I'm at it, I can keep going this way, or I can shift. I can, rebrand, refocus, and move into uh, a better lifestyle, right? It's all about how this is being used and moving forward. So it really is like a past, present um, kind of reading, right? Whereas Lenormand is like, it's like all present, but it depending on how far away a card is and things of that nature, this is very different. So it is a whole new system. So if you're interested in learning this system, or any type of system, just take your time with it. Be gentle with yourself with it, because it is a learning curve. And yes, you are going to need the book, right? So just kind of keep that in mind as you're learning a whole new system. And I hope that I explained that well enough for you all to understand it, because that's kind of how I roll through it. Some everybody is different. Not everybody's gonna want to write shit down. Some people can just remember it. I can remember it. It's just I also like to write it down so I have my notes. I have something to refer back to in case somebody who's learning, who's new at the system and they want to learn it. I can be like, here, I took notes. If they ask me, they're like, hey, what'd you get for this one? Like, how do you feel about this one? I can be like, oh, this is what I picked up. And they can be like, okay, that's what I thought. You can compare with someone, um, or if you're reading somebody else, you can kind of have something to refer to, kind of make your own keywords. So I hope that helps. So with that being said, stay hydrated. Make sure you're eating, resting, you're doing well, you're sleeping well. And I wish you all the brightest of blessings. Bye.